Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Mike. Although really, Nate, for this, shouldn't your name be like Wink or something?
I'm Wink Martindale.
You're the defensive coordinator of the University of Michigan? Carry on.
No, I am Nate. And today,
Maybe she got with Chip.
we are... Yes, Chip. I'm Chip.
Chet.
Chet.
Now that's a game show name.
Okay, fine.
No.
For
We know you're Nate. We know you're Nate.
All right, so we're playing a game show, apparently.
Yep. So today, for this episode, we're going to play a game show. Now, recently, we did an episode on saintly superpowers.
We did. I remember it.
And as we pointed out in that episode, all of those superpowers are godly superpowers. They are gifts of God that were granted to those individuals in those moments for that purpose.
And for his greater glory, not their own.
Are you going to name a
Exactly.
superhero and we have to explain how they got their godless superpowers?
No. So, the
Which
thing about...
superheroes are godless heathens?
The thing about... Actually-
Oddly, not that many.
Actually, about 50%. But,
They know what's what.
Well, DC.
but no. So, these are godly superpowers. They are gifts of God granted through His grace for His purpose in that time, in that place. And as a result, they don't have any of the things that we might expect the superpower to run into.
Sure.
They are never used at the wrong time or wrong place. They never fail. And there are no particular negative consequences to really be seen due to the use of these superpowers.
There's no tragic Marvel hero.
Exactly.
There's no thing who has super strength but is monstrously deformed.
There's no superhero who manages to take the bomb and throw it really far away, but happens to have the bomb land somewhere nearby somebody else who gets blown up. Right?
Not the ducks!
These are godly superpowers.
No downside.
They only work the way that God wants them to work, and as a result, they work 100% of the time, 100% of the way God wants them to work. But what if these superpowers were worldly superpowers? They would have to conform to the natural order of this world, and therefore, there would always be some amount of brokenness to them. Right?
Are we discussing the tragic story of Rogue?
Maybe. We'll get to that. So, in using them, there would be times when you would choose to use them that would not be a good time to use them.
Listen, I need that times right now.
There would
What
be
is
times
this mission
when
for?
there would be times when you wanted to use them, and for some reason they just didn't work right.
Stupid kryptonite.
And
The whole of Spider-Man 3.
most importantly for this game, there would be times where using them would result in a significant negative consequence. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a little game. I worked with one of our interns to put together a list, a few pairs of superpowers.
Okay.
And to develop a negative consequence for each of these superpowers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer you a choice between this or that. This one with this downside, or that one with that downside, and the game is which would you rather? So at the end, I'm going to get my little notepad here, and at the end we're going to keep track of which ones you pick. So that at the end we can tell what kind of superhero powers your worldly superhero would have.
Whether you end up being a superhero or a super zero.
So. Yeah, this pen does not want to work for me.
It's okay. We have others.
So many others.
And we got Jess. This pen just really... There we go. No, I think it's just because I'm writing in a spot where Gully was.
Ah.
All right, so here we go. First round is between levitation and bilocation. Now, before you choose...
We did discuss these are both pretty good superpowers.
These are both pretty good superpowers. But before you choose, you're going to want to know the downside. So, levitation.
The downside of levitation.
The downside of a worldly power of levitation is that the more often you are using your ability to lose contact with the ground, the harder it is for you to maintain contact with the ground. So you can levitate, but the more you levitate, the more you're going to stay levitating.
Mm-hmm. But what if we burp, like in Willy Wonka?
I don't know. I didn't think about that. Me and the intern didn't really consider that.
Okay, so what's the downside of bilocation?
Bilocation, very similar downside. You have the ability to be in two places at once. But the more you use that ability, the harder it is for you to be in one place at any given point in time. So, which would you rather? Levitate but lose your ability to stay grounded, or bilocate but lose your ability to stay essentially present, if you will?
Levitation.
All right, Mike's down for the levitating.
Although I'm totally imagining the ozone layer depletion of my secret identity levitating. I'm gonna go with bilocating because I imagine I'm gonna accidentally do that a lot less than if I had the ability to go, in any direction when, something was thrown at me. I might pick up too much.
All right. So round 2, we have indestructibility versus super strength. Now, the downside to indestructibility is nothing can seriously harm you when you're indestructible. But lots of things can minorly harm you, right? So, for example, you may not have a problem with trying to stop a crosstown bus that's out of control. But darn it, if you don't get a paper cut every single time you're taking something off the copier.
See, I was thinking more like in terms of Wolverine, where he always heals from every wound, but he still feels the pain of it.
I'll have to consider that for another round.
But I see.
But we're saying basically the little things, the big things will never hurt you. But the little things will hurt you all the more.
Well, sort of like the shields in Dune, where it'll stop a bullet, but it won't necessarily stop a knife. Okay, so and
super strength, you're gonna have the power of Samson, able to bring down the entire temple, right? But you're also not really going to be able to gauge all that well on how you use your strength, right? So you're going to have to be really careful when you're giving somebody a handshake, because you might very well break every bone in their hand. The
classic Superman problem, where he always has to control himself.
Exactly. If you have super strength, you're going to have trouble gauging how you use that strength. So
okay, so indestructibility combined with extreme vulnerability versus super strength that is a constant threat to those around you. In the words of Daffy Duck, I'm not like other people. I can't stand pain. It hurts me. So I'm going to choose super strength and roll the dice.
All right.
Why?
I'm not shaking your hand anymore. I'll just be honest, but
it's fair.
Well, I hurt myself sleeping like 3 weeks ago, and I still feel it. So indestructibility is nothing compared to my day-to-day life anyway.
Isn't that the great thing about getting older? It's like, oh, I hurt myself. Doing what? Sleeping.
Do you know how it hurts to go and get a paper cut? Cardboard paper cuts are worse.
So now we get to round 3, and the one that a certain sorry, not in this round.
A secret bonus round.
Round 3, we have healing the sick versus prophecy.
Okay, what's the downside of healing the sick?
Healing the sick, all right? You have the ability to touch an ill person and to take their illness away from them.
But do you then get it?
No.
Okay, that's good.
You don't get it. However, the next person you make physical contact with does, and you can't take it back. So you can take an illness away from someone, but you are going to end up giving it to someone else.
I feel like in that case you'd have to be like a reverse angel of death and work in hospice. So it's like, oh, heal this one person. I gave you something that will kill you in 3 years. Bonus, you have 5 days to live.
Or like you go from the hospital to the hospice, from the hospital to the hospice.
Versus prophecy, where you have the ability to see things in the future, but you have a really hard time paying attention to what's going on around you right now. Sort of like the dazed medium, right? You can nobody really thinks you're entirely all there.
The
but
absent-minded professor.
Exactly. You can go and tell them all about what's going to happen to them tomorrow or later on today or next week. But if they ask you what you think about what's going on right now, you're like, huh?
Right now, I think someone's car alarm is going off.
Yeah.
You probably can't hear it, but you might be able to.
So, Michael?
I can't be giving people illnesses, so I'm going to have to choose prophecy.
All right.
So far, I'm
levitating.
I'm less and less connected to the ground.
I'm
super strong, and I'm kind of out of it.
You are a levitating, super strength prophet who has a hard time remaining on the ground, preventing themselves from hurting others, or actually paying attention to what's going on.
Well, no, see, this is good because I'm such a menace to others. I'll be off the ground. If I'm 10 feet over everyone's head, I'm not that dangerous.
Jess, what about you? What do you think?
I was also going to take prophecy.
Yeah, I figured this one was kind of a gimme.
We were able to discuss people who were like, what? And I explained the 5 things that got me to this conversation through what they said.
So, final round. Round 4. We have reviving the dead versus versus tolerance to heat.
Right,
now,
are the dead back alive or undead? This is a very important distinction.
Let's hear the downside.
Reviving the dead. Through your touch, you have the ability to make somebody who is only recently dead. We don't want to have to worry about it.
I'm not reanimating George Washington.
Exactly. You're not going to reanimate George Washington.
But zombie George Washington could run again. When he was alive, there was no term limits.
If their corpse has suffered any significant amount of decay, they're not coming back from that. But if somebody were to suddenly get, like, they were to walk out into the street and get clipped by a car, you could walk up to them.
Well, this is what we see mostly in Scripture. You know, somebody's recently died, and then they're brought back.
Yep.
Except for those people in the cave.
Your best friend's kid just died in its sleep. You can go and touch that child, and it's now alive again.
Talitha cum.
Yep, exactly.
We need snackies.
The downside.
It is hungry work rising from the dead. The Lord himself proves this.
The downside
you guys got anything to eat?
Is that in exchange for being able to give the gift of life through your touch, much like Rogue from Marvel Comics, physical contact with living persons
kills them,
will sap the life out of them.
Ooh.
May not kill them, but definitely isn't going to be an experience that they want to do twice. Versus tolerance to heat. Much like St. Lawrence, who could be on that grill and still have presence of mind to say, you know, guys, I think it's time you flipped me over.
Who kept his wits about him.
You would be able to withstand intense amounts of heat with little to no difficulty. In exchange for that, you would have an exceptional sensitivity to cold. And by cold, I mean 72 degrees indoors is gonna feel cold to you.
I knew that person.
I know people like, you know, it's the old guy who's wearing a 3-piece suit with a sweater in the middle of summer.
You might get frostbite at the beach in June, right? So bundle up wherever it is you're going.
See, I feel this is an interesting one, because if I pick Rogue, it has much more disadvantages to Nate if it was real life than if you did.
Yep.
As seen by my friend who really wanted to make a character who was an X-Men, who was the daughter of Rouge and Gambit, but we can never exactly figure out how they can have a child. Best case scenario, she kills the child.
They're gonna have, yeah, unless it had an automatic immunity.
We didn't have that on the list.
I understand.
We didn't know what ice cream flavor they loved.
I understand.
Give life, take life. Or withstand heat, but freeze in Michigan in the summertime.
I mean, I checked. That's why I was looking. It is currently 83 in here with 62% humidity.
Yes, it is.
I mean,
given the state I'm in right now with the powers I have, I don't necessarily trust my own ability to properly gauge how much life I'm giving and taking. Therefore, for the good of others, I have to choose the heat tolerance, cold intolerance, which is painful for me who loves the winter.
You wouldn't want to kill, the nurse or doctor every time you have a physical.
Especially since, again, we've established, I can tell you what's going to happen in 3 weeks, but I've got a fuzzy on what's happening right now. That seems like a recipe for, oh, you sucked her dry. Son of a gun. All right, I can revive a lot of people. Seems like a bad idea. Jess?
On one hand,
I do like the rogue power because you just roll over in the middle of the night.
Yes. On one hand, I am way too pale to go into a very hot environment. However,
as a mother, you feel that
like not being able to touch people, as seen by any of the decent X-Men comics, is much worse than you would think.
So you're gonna choose the heat tolerance as well?
Yep, and we're gonna have to at least move next to my sister, if not farther south.
We'll be like those obnoxious tourists who go to Death Valley.
Okay, so
and not bring water.
So Saint Mike of the Big White has the ability,
Rome, possibly.
has been given the power to levitate, to have super strength, to be able to prophesy, and to have extreme tolerance to heat. The only problem is that he tends to float around a lot. He will break your hand if you try to shake his.
The upper atmosphere is actually cold.
I know.
He's not, on the note of trying to shake his, he's not entirely certain of who you are or where he is.
I'm thinking the best thing for me to do right now is probably fly myself and hover over a volcano.
No, I've got this for you.
And then prophesy from there.
I know.
You're redoing Delphi?
I know what this saint's vocation is.
Suck it to me.
By the way, he gets really cold really easily.
I
to finish out the downsides.
Hermit.
Anchorite. Mm-hmm. We're going to put your cell right next to the furnace that heats the entire monastery. You have a hole through which you can see things and speak to people and receive food and things like that. But you probably
through which I can dispense my prophecies,
and through which you can dispense your prophecies.
Just don't grab two pillars and either go in or out.
Yeah. Well, I have to make sure that when I'm prophesying, I don't just burst out.
But it has been well reinforced, so that it is unlikely that you will,
I have God's I have God's super strength.
It's been reinforced at least a little bit, so you don't necessarily knock down the wall every time you get restless leg syndrome.
I like it. This is going to be great.
All right, Jess.
Yep.
Saint Rose of the Rock is able to bilocate. She is indestructible. She has the gift of prophecy and is able to withstand great amounts of heat. The problem is that while she can be here and there, she's very rarely here. she's indestructible, but she's constantly getting these nagging little paper cuts,
hurting herself in her
toes, hurting herself in her sleep. She's not entirely cognizant of what's going on around her at the moment, and you gotta keep her warm because goodness, she starts to complain at about 80 degrees.
I really feel like I am a 9-year-old with dementia in this storyline.
Vegas, baby, Vegas. You'll be plenty warm.
Yes, we're not going to bother making you an anchorite because, well,
you bilocate.
You can't hold me.
Walls can't hold me.
I feel like...
We can't chain you to the wall because you'll just rip your way out of the chains. It's not like they're going to hurt you.
I feel like I need to be like a stylite on like 3 different styles and somewhere in the Middle East.
Just bouncing between different poles.
Ow! I stubbed my toe out. This pole's a half inch short of the other.
Ah, Splinter, son of a. Yeah, just bouncing.
Some enterprising individual turning her 3 styles into a game of 3-card Sainty.
Yeah.
If I'm a
Which
2,
one's she gonna wish? Yeah, which one?
1, 2, 3. She can be on any one.
Well, she'll be on any 2.
She can be on any 2 at a time.
At which point I just start yelling out, lotto numbers for them, but not for the lottos anywhere nearby.
You don't tell them which lotto. You just tell them the
7, 43, 2.
Yes, she's a stylite outside of Vegas.
Oh, this is going to be amazing.
All right. Thank you very much for watching along. If you were taking your own notes and making your own choices, go down below and put your selections in the comment box. If you really enjoy this sort of game show kind of a feel, let us know. We might make more of them.
Put the interns to work.
Yeah. If you think there are saintly superpowers that need to be added to the game, let us know.
But just remember, you have to have a downside or it's not much of a game.
It has to have a downside. While you're down there, make sure you hit the subscribe button, the bell next to it, so you get notifications when new episodes come out. And make sure you give it that like, because as I said earlier on, if you're not liking the show, you're not liking Jesus.
I mean, we pointed out that the spamming to the choir was a bad thing.
I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. If you're not liking this show, you're not liking Jesus or his church.
Beautiful picture here.
Why do you hate Jesus?
And until next time, remember to always live your faith.
Love your faith.
Share that love.